What's up, guys? It's Mr. Graves. I'm sure it's exactly what you want to be doing while you're at home in your free time, away from school. You wanted to hear my awesome voice. Well, at least you don't have to see my bald head, but the little silver lining there. But anyway, thank you for listening. This is going to help you out, I hope. I looked at the test and there's a couple of things I just wanted to go over that I thought might be a little confusing or things that you might have a little trouble with. So study this, listen to it, take notes on it. You don't have to take notes on it, but just be ready for this information to be on the test tomorrow. So let's go ahead and get into it. Don't waste too much time. Productivity. We talked about this, but I wanted to go over it one more time here for those of you who wanted a little extra help. Productivity, if you go back to your vocabulary for Unit 2, it's simply defined as like the level of output that results from a given level of input. Now that sounds like a bunch of mumbo-jumbo economic terms, but look at it this way. What's in parentheses? So think of it as the level of goods, that's your output. The output is your goods that have been produced, resulting from a given level of input, the resources. So basically, how many things are you, what you're producing, resulting from the resources that you're using, okay? So let's look at this example. We're talking about pizza since we did an activity on pizza. So let's say that Domino's, I hate Domino's, let's go Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut produces 1,000 pizzas produced. The Pizza Hut in Athens. 1,000 pizzas are produced every day at that Pizza Hut. They have 20 workers. Well, that means if that store is producing 1,000 pizzas every day, they have 20 workers. You divide that together, and that gives you 50 pizzas per worker. That means each worker is essentially producing, on average, 50 pizzas a day. You got 1,000 pizzas, 20 workers, do the math, 50 pizzas per worker. Now, to increase productivity, what you need to do is increase efficiency. And efficiency is basically using the smallest amount of resources to produce the output. So the more efficient you are, that means you're using fewer resources, but still producing either the same output or maybe even more output. Okay, so you want to use fewer resources, just basically be smarter in the way that you produce your goods. There's a couple of ways you can increase efficiency. You can do that by dividing labor up, specialization, saying, okay, instead of everyone doing all of it by themselves, why don't we say Johnny does this, Johnny does that, kind of with our pizza activity. You say that one person puts on the pepperonis, one person puts on the black olives, one person cuts out the dough, one person puts on the cheese, one person puts in the oven. They each have a specialized role. And by doing that, you can ultimately produce more in your factory, in your company, in your business. You can invest in capital goods. Also going back to our pizza activity, you could buy a machine that pre-cuts the pizza dough, like we bought there, and that investment in capital goods, as we saw in our pizza activity, will help you produce more pizzas. So let's imagine that you increase your efficiency. Let's say that through specialization and investing in capital goods, that same Pizza Hut can now produce 5,000 pizzas a day. They're up from 1,000 to 5,000 pizzas a day because they are specializing their labor and they're investing in capital goods. You still have the same 20 workers, but now your productivity is increased because you've increased efficiency. You go from only producing 50 pizzas a day per worker to now each worker is producing on average 250 pizzas per day. Your productivity went up because your efficiency went up. So hope that makes sense. All right. Let's take a quick look at different types of economies. Took some notes on this. I just want to clarify a few things. Market economies and capitalism go together. If you have a market economy, you have a capitalist economy or a capitalist society. Command economies, down here, go with communist or authoritarian socialist kind of governments. They usually go hand in hand. So make sure you match those up. Market economy, capitalism. Command economy, communism. Okay? Now, in a market economy, producers are free to make what consumers want. So if you are Nike, I like to use that example, you're going to make shoes based on what people want. You have that freedom. The government is not telling you, all right, Nike, you can't make fly knit versions. You have to make the regular version. Nike is free to make whatever kind of product they want, use dry fit material, use fly knit material, whatever it is. They have the freedom to make what they think consumers want. Okay? Market economies also have voluntary exchange, where if I want to buy a pair of Nike shoes, which I do often, I can just go to the store, pay them. I'm exchanging my money in return for the shoes or the clothing, whatever it might be. Now, market economies are driven by this idea of a profit motive. There's a reason it's in all caps there. Profit motive is a very important part of a market economy. Since producers have a chance to make a profit because they are free to make what they think consumers want, there's that competition. that drives them to do as good as they possibly can. The harder you work, the more inventive and innovative you are, the better ideas you come up with, the more work you do, chances are the more money you're going to make. The better you are at your job, the more money you can make. Everyone's not making the same. You can make more if you work harder, if you're better at your job, which is good because it gives us better products, better equipment, things like that. But it also means there's not as much equity. Older people, since they're older and skills are given out, the bodies are given out, they can't quite do all the work. That's why you don't see a bunch of 85-year-old geezers working on a construction crew. They can't handle it. Their bodies can't handle it. So there's not as much equity. You don't treat people as fairly as you would in different types of economy. The United States obviously would be an example of something close to a market economy. Really, most economies are mixed. Almost all economies are. But we're much closer to a market or capitalist economy than we are to a command economy. Now, a command economy, or a communist country, on the other hand, instead of producers having freedom to make what they want, it's the government making all the decision making. It's not the individuals. It's not the businesses making decisions. It's the government making all the decisions. What to produce, how to produce, whom to produce it for. And there's no real incentive for entrepreneurship. There's no profit motive because everyone's essentially getting paid the same thing. Everyone's getting the same. And that means, like, if I work my butt off, work as hard as I can, I'm still going to get paid the same as a guy who sleeps through work. And in that scenario, there's no incentive for me to work hard. I'm just going to give up and say, no, why am I working hard? I'm just going to sleep every day too. And when everyone does that, or majority of people do that, well, then your production is obviously going to drop off. You're not being very efficient. Okay? So that's a command economy. Now, like I said, most economies are mixed. Most economies in the world. Examples of mixed economies today would be, Cuba and North Korea should be up here with command economies. That's my bad. I don't know what happened. Cuba, North Korea would be examples of command economies. But most economies in the world are mixed, where you have some freedom for producers and consumers to buy. When you go shopping, you can go shopping where you want. If you want to go to grocery store, you can go to Kroger, you can go to Publix, you can go to Sam's, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Aldi, all these different shops. You can go to the farmer's market if you want. That's your freedom to make that choice. But there are parts of the economy where the government makes the decision. The government, like when you're buying produce, it might be a little more expensive because the government says the produce has to meet a certain standards of inspection. Those kinds of things. So the government kind of gets involved as well. And then the last one would be traditional economies, where people kind of, it's the old school, almost like cavemen, where people specialize, have a specialized role, and then they share goods. All right? This is a production possibilities curve. But this is one thing that we didn't really talk too much about, but I did want to mention briefly here. So let's say B is your original production possibility curve. This is all the possibilities for production between two goods, good X and good Y. Well, if you want to increase productivity, it's definitely possible. Maybe you train your workers, maybe you invest in new capital goods, and so you can produce more. If that happens, then the curve would move to the right. It would shift out to the right, which means there's more production possible, okay? Because maybe you have a machine that can help you produce things quicker. You have a new factory. Maybe you're able to hire more workers. You have some sort of increase in your resources somewhere along the line. But sometimes resources can be taken away. Maybe your company is losing money. Maybe your government is in debt because you're fighting a war. You don't have as much money to spend on domestic goods producing things like, let's say cars and shoes, like we had in our example today. If you have a decrease in your resources, well, your curve is going to shift inward. It means your production is going to go down. You can't produce as much. So if you have an outward shift, that means production is going up. If you have an inward shift, it means production is going down. That's based on your resources. If you have more resources all of a sudden and you're more efficient, your production goes outward, goes up. If you have fewer resources, then your production is going to go down. It's going to go inwards, an inward shift. So I hope that makes sense. All right, I do want to just quickly run through the 6 broad social goals. Economic efficiency, remember, and these are goals that all societies want to meet. But remember, you can't meet all of them at the same time. You constantly have to make decisions and prioritize. You trade off. So you might trade economic freedom. Like in a command economy, you might say, look, we're not going to give our consumers much freedom. We're going to trade that, but in return for giving up freedom, we're going to have more security. Okay, there's not going to be as much risk. Everyone has a job. Everyone's going to get something. You might not get a ton, but you're going to get something. You have that security, that stability there. So economic efficiency, that's how well resources are used. Are you using them well? Are you making use of them? Are you specializing? Things like that. Economic equity, what is fair? If people are having trouble providing for themselves, they don't have an education, is it fair for there to be some redistribution of wealth where you tax wealthier people and give back to the poor? That's an idea that some people think is fair. Some people don't think that's fair. Economic freedom, of course. Freedom for consumers. You can spend your money if you want. You can save it. No one's telling you what to do with your money. That's your decision. You can change jobs. I changed jobs. I left Clark County, came to Oconee County because I wanted a different job. I wanted a change. I can make a little more money too. And it's just a better school system. So you have the freedom to do that. You can open businesses. You have that business. You have that freedom. You can also close your business if it's not doing well. You have that freedom. Economic growth is about increasing your production, making production go up. Economic security is protecting consumers for risk. So one example we talked about was governments might tell you that you have to wear a helmet when you ride a motorcycle. Well, that's taking away your economic freedom. You don't have the freedom to say, I don't want to wear a helmet. So you're sacrificing freedom. The trade-off is, though, you have more security. The government's protecting the consumer from those risks that you might take by riding a motorcycle without a helmet. And then economic stability is maintaining stable prices where prices aren't going dramatically up or dramatically down from day to day. They're kind of staying stable, and you have full employment. And remember, full employment does not mean zero employment. Zero employment is impossible. Full employment basically means that you're having the highest level of employment possible in your specific economy. So those are our 6 broad social goals. All right, a couple people to know. We're almost done. A couple people to know here. You got Adam Smith, this charming-looking dude up here. Remember, he wrote a very influential book called Wealth of Nations. He was really the first modern economist. Some of the ideas that he really pushed, he was really big on, is the idea of specialization, that economies can produce more, productivity goes up. If you specialize, you become more efficient. If you specialize, which means productivity goes up. You become wealthier. He's also big on the idea of laissez-faire, where the government should not be involved. The government should be involved in only the most minor details, the smallest amount of government intervention as possible in the economy. Let people be free to make decisions. And then you got the old Grandpa Joe down here, Karl Marx, wrote the Communist Manifesto. Obviously, he's considered the father of communism. He's the one that kind of put those ideas into writing. He was favoring a command economy. He wanted the government to make all the decisions for consumers. Doesn't really work out that well in practice, though. All right, a couple of quick things here. There seemed to be some confusion I saw some people reviewing clips. Some people were asking me some questions on the difference between human capital and capital goods. Remember, a capital good is a good, anything that's used to produce something else. So a factory is technically a capital good because inside the factory you're producing other things. A printer would be a capital good because the printer's a good itself, but it also can produce other things, printed products. A 3D printer would be another good example of that. So anything, a hammer is a good, but you use a hammer to produce something else. Okay. Now, human capital is also used to produce things, but human capital are the workers. That's the human aspect. It's the workers and their either mental or physical labor that they are performing. So to improve your human capital, if you wanted to invest in human capital, what you might do is send your employees to college. Sometimes you have companies that will hire somebody and then pay for you to go to college because they're investing in that human capital. They think the smarter you are, the more education you get, the better worker you'll be. The better worker you are, the more money you'll make for them. So you see that a lot of times. Or you might send your workers to a training. The school system, I know they send us to seminars and conferences where we learn all different types of teaching techniques. That's an investment in human capital. The idea is we learn how to teach better. We come back, we're better at teaching you. Production goes up. If you wanted to invest in capital goods, you might build a new factory. You might invest in a new assembly line. Those types of things. If you're a contractor, you might invest in a new backhoe or something like that to kind of do the work that the workers used to do by themselves. It's an investment in capital goods. So there you have it, guys. A couple things I just want to make sure you guys knew. There's obviously going to be more than this on the test, but here's some ideas that I wanted to make sure that everyone was clear on because I think there might have been a little bit of confusion on some of those. So feel free to write down any questions you have and hit me up at the beginning of class tomorrow. Good luck studying, guys. See you tomorrow.